पूर्वस्मिन् प्रथमे मंत्रे एतत् सर्वं यत्किंच जगति वर्तते तत् सर्वं ईशेन परमेश्वरेण आभासनीयं वर्तते, आभाष्यं वर्तते। एतत् कृत्वा गृधिं मा कुरु, कस्यचिद् अपि धनं नास्ति, न एवं कृत्वा त्यक्तेन जीवितव्यम्। एतत् तस्य मन्त्रस्य प्रथमस्य मन्त्रस्य आशय आसीत्। तत्पश्चात् द्वितीये मन्त्रे कर्मवादः उपस्थापितः। न अस्मिन् संसारे अस्मिन् जगति कुर्वन् एव, न तत्र एव शब्दस्य प्रयोगः वर्तते, कुर्वन् एव जनः जिजीविषेत्, शतं शमः जिजीविषेत्, पूर्णमायुः जिजीविषेत्, तच्च कुर्वता एव, न कुर्वन् एव जिजीविषेत्, इतः अन्यथा भवितुं न शक्नोति। यदि एवं जीव्यते चेत्, यदि जिजीविषति जनः, तर्हि कर्म नरे जने न लिप्यते। एष आशयः आसीत् द्वितीयस्य मन्त्रस्य। इदानीं तृतीयः मन्त्रः वर्तते। अत्र यः आत्मानं हन्ति तस्य निन्दा वर्तते। न कीदृशः आत्मघातः, न कीदृशी आत्महत्या, एतद् विषये पश्चात् चिन्तयामः। इदानीं यद् आचार्यः वदति शङ्करः, तत् पूर्वं न पठामः। तत्पश्चात् सर्वं न मन्त्रत्रयं सर्वथा तत्पश्चात् चिन्तयामः। तत्र वार्ता अपि भवेत् इति न मे विचारः। Okay, so we finished two mantras in last two sessions, and there the first mantra was about it was saying that this entire world is pervaded, inhabited by the Lord and the ultimate self, the supreme self. That's why we should not have any greed. We should enjoy the world, or we should protect, maintain the world with the feeling, with the sense of renunciation. No? So it is nobody's or it is everybody's. No? So like this entire world is one, this is the God, or this is the ultimate self. So that's why there should not be any greed, any plundering. So we should protect it, we should enjoy it with the sense of renunciation, sacrifice. So that was the essence of the first. The second one was about karma bada. So one should, if one wants to live his complete life, 100 years, he should surely, definitely, he should be active. He should be doing his duties, ritual duties and others. There is no other possibility. So there was emphasis, kurban eva. There is no other possibility. So that was the essence of that mantra. Now we are entering the third one. This is a reproach. It is censoring atmaghata, so killing of one's own self. And Shankara interprets it in a typical Vedantic way. So it is, according to him, it is not literal. So atmaghata is, if you do not know yourself in the right way, that is killing of yourself, killing of the self. So let's enter the Bhashya, and later we will come back and then again we will reflect on all three together. अथ इदानीम् अविद्वन् निन्दार्थोऽयं मंत्र आरभ्यते. इदानीं मन्त्रद्वयानन्तरम् एष तृतीयः मन्त्रः आरभ्यते. अस्य अर्थः तात्पर्यं कुत्र वर्तते? निन्दायां वर्तते। कस्य निन्दायां? अविदुषः निन्दायाम्। अविद्वन् निन्दार्थोऽयं मन्त्रः। असूर्या नाम ते लोका अन्धेन तमसावृतः तांस्ते प्रेत्याभिगच्छन्ति ये के चात्महनो जनः। असूर्या नाम ते लोकः अंधेन तमसावृतः। असूर्या न असुर शब्दात् व्युत्पादनीयोऽयं शब्दः न असुरस्य अयम् असूर्यः न बहुवचने वर्तते। असूर्याः न विशेषणं लोकाः असूर्या लोकाः ते च लोका ते तत्र सन्ति लोकाः असूर्याः ते च लोका कीदृशाः ते अंधेन तमसा वृताः। यदि कोऽपि अमरकोशं स्मरति चेत् तत्र न अंधतमस् समस्तं न पदं वर्तते। किं किं वर्तते तत्र? ध्वान्ते गाढेन्धतमसं क्षीणे बतमसं तमः न अत्र अंधेन तमसा व्यस्तं वर्तते। तथापि अंधेन तमसा वृतः आवृतः केन आवृतः? अंधेन तमसा अंधतमसा आवृतः ते लोकाः तत्र सन्ति। ते कीदृशा कथं विशेषणीया? ते असुर संबंधात् असुर्यः। तांस्ते प्रत्याभिगच्छन्ति ये के चात्महनो जना। तान् लोकान् आत्महनो जना ये के च आत्महनो जना सन्ति अस्मिन् संसारे। ते प्रेत्य इतः प्रेत्य संसारात् प्रेत्य तान् अभिगच्छन्ति। तान् लोकान् प्रति अभिगच्छन्ति। प्रतिगच्छन्ति अभिगच्छन्ति। अत्र वेदान्तरीत्या देवादयः अपि असुरा इति आचार्यः वदति। असुर्यः परमात्म भावम् अद्वयम् अपेक्ष्य देवादयोऽपि असुरः। तेषां च स्वभूता लोका असुर्या नाम। अत्र यथा पूर्वमुक्तम् असुरस्य अयम् असुर्यः न तथा अत्र अस्मिन् प्रसंगे अद्वयम् अपेक्ष्य ये द्वये तिष्ठन्ति ते यदि ते देवादयः अपि सन्ति चेत् ये द्वये तिष्ठन्ति ये द्वयम् अपेक्षन्ते ते असुरा एव इति आचार्यः। कथं? परमात्म भावम् अद्वयम् अपेक्ष्य न ये अद्वयम् अपेक्षन्ते ये अद्वये तिष्ठन्ति ते एव आसुरभावरहिता वर्तन्ते। ते एव वस्तुतः देवाः सन्ति। एवं च तेषां च स्वभूता लोका ये द्वये तिष्ठन्ति ये द्वयम् अपेक्षन्ते द्वये जीवन्ति ते यत्र कुत्र निवसन्ति एष संसारः स्यात् उत न अमुत्रः संसार अमुत्रः स्वर्गः स्यात् असुर्या एव ते लोका। तेषां च स्वभूता लोका असुर्या नाम। नाम शब्दो अनर्थको निपातः न आचार्य शंकरः मनुते अत्र नाम शब्दस्य कोऽपि अर्थः तात्पर्यं नास्ति। ते लोकाः कर्म फलानि लोक्यन्ते दृश्यन्ते भुज्यन्ते इति जन्मानि न अत्र संसारे अपि स्यात् उत अमुत्र स्वर्गे अपि स्यात्। लोकः अत्र लोकशब्दस्य तात्पर्यं वर्तते अर्थः वर्तते जन्म इति न लोकः इति जन्मानि इति न व्याख्यानं शंकराचार्यस्य। अन्ये अपि तथैव व्याख्यान्ति ये वेदान्तिनः सन्ति। कथं जन्मानि लोकः लोकः इति जन्मानि उच्यन्ते यतः जन्मनि जन्मनि कर्मफलानि लोक्यन्ते दृश्यन्ते एवं कृत्वा जन्मानि एव लोकः. Okay, so here in the mantra we have the word Ashurya Lokaha. No? So uh, we don't know exactly what was the meaning or purport in the actual mantra, but that maybe we can reflect later. First, we try to understand what is the Vedantic interpretation, what Shankara is interpreting it. So according to Shankara, here lokaha, the word loka actually doesn't mean world. No? So it is not like this world, the other world, but according to him, uh, every life, no? So every incarnation is called loka. No? So in this context, lokaha means lives, no? Like births, rebirths, incarnations. Why? Because in these lives, in these incarnations, people, they see the literal meaning of localry. So that is the root. So the literal meaning is to see. So in these lives, in these incarnations, beings, they see, they observe, and then that way they go through, they experience. So here it is symbolic upalakshanam. Here seeing means experiencing. So they experience the reward, the result of their deeds. So that's why lives, incarnations, or every life is called loka. So here, so these lives are demonic. So according to Shankara, so every life, it's not only human life or animal's life, even the life of or the incarnation in the form of a deity is Ashurya, is demonic in a typical way, in a particular sense. Why every life is that way reproached? So, because if you understand the unity, the ultimate reality of yourself, the one self, ultimate self, non-dual self, then you transcend everything. You are not in this transmigration or in this mechanism of retribution. So until you are in this mechanism of retribution, you are affected by your deeds, you are in duality, you are asura, you are still demonic. So in a particular sense. So compared to non-duality, non-dual understanding of the ultimate self, every other understanding, every other existence is demonic. So that's why here, according to him, uh, so all these lives, all these existences, they are demonic. Okay, so and then let's enter the analysis of the second pada, andena tamasabrita. Andhena adarsanatmakena ajnanena tamasa abritaha achaditaha. So this can be taken as the reason for the proposition. So in the first pada, Asurya nama te loka tani janmani asuryani te lokaha asuryaha katham yatah te andena tamasavritah santi andena adarsanatmakena यत्र किमपि न दृश्यते तद अन्धम अत्र विशिष्ट तात्पर्य विशिष्टम तात्पर्यं वर्तते अत्र अन्धम नाम अदर्शनम अदर्शनम च किम अज्ञानम न आत्मनः paramatmattvasya ajnanam. Tena ajnanena andena adarsanatmakena ajnanena tatchakim tamaha vartate, yat sarvam abrinoti, tena andena tamasha ajnanena atma ajnanena atma jnanena abritaha te lokaha santi, na tani janmani santi, abrita achadita santi, न स्वत्वं तत्र न प्रकाशते, परमात्मत्वं तत्र न प्रकाशते. किमर्थम्? अज्ञानेन. न ज्ञानं नास्ति, न स्वात्मानं स्वात्मनः परमात्मत्वं जन न जानाति इति तत्र परमात्मत्वम् आवृतं वर्तते अज्ञानेन, श्रूयेण अज्ञानेन. तान् स्थावरान्तान् लोकान् प्रेत्य त्यक्त्वा इमं देहम् अविगच्छन्ति यथा कर्म यथा श्रुतम्. जनः तत्र कर्ता पश्चात् निर्दिश्यते. तान् स्थावरान्तान् लोकान्, तानि स्थावरान्तानि जन्मानि इतः प्रेत्य इमं देहं त्यक्त्वा, मनुष्य देहं त्यक्त्वा, तान् स्थावरान्तान् लोकान् जनः अविगच्छन्ति, तानि जन्मानि अविगच्छन्ति, तानि जन्मानि गृह्णन्ति. यथा तेषां कर्म वर्तते, यथा तेषां ज्ञानं श्रुतम्, अत्र ज्ञानं यथा तेषां श्रुतं वर्तते, तेषां श्रुतं तेषां ज्ञानं सांसारिकं वर्तते, तेषां श्रुतं ज्ञानं द्वैताश्रितं वर्तते. तदा ते इमं देहं त्यक्त्वा न मोक्षं गच्छन्ति, परन्तु स्थावरान्तान् लोकान् गच्छन्ति, स्थावरान्तानि जन्मानि गच्छन्ति. ते च के, ते एके च आत्मनः जनाः आत्मानं घ्नन्ति इति आत्मनः न व्युत्पत्तिः वर्तते. आत्महन् न एकवचने आत्महन्ता न आत्महन् वर्तते, तस्य बहुवचने आत्महनः आत्मघातिनः जनाः. यतः ते आत्मानं घ्नन्ति अज्ञानेन, ते अविद्वांसः वर्तन्ते, ते आत्मानं न जानन्ति. एवं कृत्वा पुनः पुनः पौनः पुन्येन आत्मानं संसारे पातयन्ति, आत्मानं न तत्र स्थावरान्तान् लोकान् प्रापयन्ति. एवं कृत्वा ते आत्मानः सन्ति.
Sorry, last 20 seconds we had difficulty listening to you.
Oh.
Last 20 seconds.
Oh, okay. भवतु. तत्र न तांस्ते प्रत्याविगच्छन्ति एके चात्मनो जनः इत्यस्य व्याख्या वर्तते. तान् लोकान्, स्थावरान्तान् लोकान्, यतः पूर्वमेव उक्तं लोकः अत्र जन्मानि, एवं कृत्वा स्थावरान्तानि जन्मानि, इमं देहं त्यक्त्वा, मनुष्य देहं त्यक्त्वा, यथा जनस्य कर्म वर्तते, यथा तेषां जनानां कर्म वर्तते, यथा तेषां श्रुतं वर्तते, यथा तेषां द्वैताश्रितं ज्ञानं वर्तते, तथैव ते स्थावरान्तान् लोकान्, स्थावरान्तानि जन्मानि ते अविगच्छन्ति. ते आत्महनः सन्ति, आत्मानं न जानन्ति, अज्ञात्वा आत्मानं न अविद्वद्भिः आत्मा हन्यते. एवं कृत्वा ते आत्महनः सन्ति, ते स्थावरान्तानि जन्मानि गच्छन्ति. Those people who kill themselves by not knowing the reality of the self, just dwelling in the dualistic sphere, dualistic understanding, mundane understanding of the world and the self, they kill themselves. not knowing, not being aware of their self. So they that way kill themselves, and they go to different incarnations, which are demonic, as described earlier, because it doesn't support the knowledge of the self, transcendence, liberation, freedom. That's why it is called demonic. So those incarnations, those lokas, these people go after abandoning, after departing from this world, after abandoning this body here, according to their understanding, according to their doing, according to their action, their deeds, they they go to, they march towards those lives, those, and there he is describing these lives, these incarnations are down to immovable, like trees, even other not fully sentient existences, beings, like trees and even stone and other things. These people are killing themselves, in the sense, maybe now we can say that they are killing themselves. It is figurative, and they actually demote themselves, so degenerate themselves. So from human existence, they go towards degenerated, like animal life, or as their life as plant, or even as stone and other things. So they are going towards insentiency. So that's why these people are the killers of themselves. Bhavatu katham te atmanam nityam himshanti avidya doshena vidyamanasya atmanas tiraskaranaat. अत्र आत्मा अनोजना इति उक्तं, कथम उच्यते, कथम ते नित्यं न सर्वथा आत्मानं घ्नन्ति, हिंसन्ति, यतः ते तिरस्कुर्वन्ति आत्मानं, न विद्यमानम् आत्मानं ते तिरस्कुर्वन्ति, तेषां तिरस्करणात् कस्य विद्यमानस्य आत्मनः, आत्मा परमात्मा एव विद्यते, आत्मनः स्वाभाविकं वस्तुतत्वं परमात्मत्वम् एव वर्तते, परन्तु एते द्वैतम् आश्रित्य संसारं श्रिताः सन्तः विद्यमानम् आत्मानं परमात्मानं ते तिरस्कुर्वन्ति। एवं कृत्वा लक्षणया उच्यते ते घ्नन्ति अविद्या दोषेण, न तत्र दोषः वर्तते अविद्या, तत्र अविद्या वर्तते, अविद्या नाम अज्ञानं, न स्वरूपस्य अज्ञानं, आत्मनः यत् पारमार्थिकं स्वरूपं वर्तते तस्य अज्ञानम् अविद्या, तेन दोषेण, अविद्या दोषेण ते तिरस्कुर्वन्ति विद्यमानम् आत्मानम्, एवं कृत्वा ते नित्यं हिंसन्ति। विद्यमानस्य आत्मनो यत् कार्यं फलम् अजरामरत्वादि संवेदनादि लक्षणम्, यदि ते आत्मनः स्वत्वं स्वरूपं जानन्ति तर्हि ते परमात्मनि स्थिताः भवन्ति, न तर्हि तेषां संवेदनं भवति आत्मनः अजरत्वस्य अमरत्वस्य एवमादि, न तत्र आनन्दस्वरूपस्य नित्य शुद्ध बुद्ध मुक्त स्वभावस्य तत्र संवेदनं भवेत्, परन्तु ते विद्यमानस्य आत्मनः ज्ञानं न आप्नुवन्ति, ते आत्मानं दिवाकरतया न व्यक्तितया ते न मन्वते, ते जानते, एवं कृत्वा तत्र स्वरूपस्य सम्बन्धः तत्र नास्ति, ज्ञानं नास्ति। तत् हतस्य इव तिरोभूतं भवति, न सो यः स्वभावः वर्तते पारमार्थिक स्वभावः, Atasya iva the tasmin kale, ajnana kale, avidya dosha brite kale, tatra swabhavah tiro bhuto bhavati. Tat samvedanam tiro bhutam bhavati. Samvedanadi lakshanam yat atmanah vaishishtyam vartate, yat atmanah karyam vartate, स्वरूपम वर्तते तत्तिरोहितम भवति एवं कृत्वा प्राकृतः जना ये अविदुषः सन्ति ते प्राकृतः न प्रकृतिं गता प्रकृति इति अत्र न सांसारिक स्वभावः ये प्राकृताः सन्ति ते अविद्वांसः सन्ति ते अत्र आत्मनः उच्यन्ते तेन आत्महनन दोषेण एव ते संसरन्ति ते आत्महनन दोषेण संसरन्ति okay, let me go back. So here he just further he elaborates on this issue of killing of oneself, and he tells that here it is a figurative statement, and they are called killer of oneself, they are killer of the self in a figurative way, in a particular way, because they somehow ignore or they conceal unknowingly, in a way, because of their ignorance, because of the uh, filth of ignorance, because of the blemish of ignorance, this natural understanding of the self or the innate self has been concealed, curtailed. So once this nature is curtailed, there is no advantage of its majesty, its ultimate nature. So what is the benefit of knowing the self, or what is the benefit of being in the true self? That is uh, experience, samvedana, the inner experience of uh, immortality of the self, so oneness of the self, undying nature of the self. All that benefit is not available when one does not know one's own true self, true nature of the self. And in this mundane state, when one is resorting to samsara, one is resorting to believing in transmigratory self, individuality of the self, individual identity of the self, or relational identity, like I am father, I am teacher, I am this Mr. So and so. This kind of fragmented understanding of the self, uh, that cuts off, so that stops your benefit, your link with your true nature. So that way, as if you are stricken, as if you are killed, beaten, so you are cut off from your true nature. So that's why here those people who are ignorant of one's own self, they are called killer of the self. And because of, due to this particular problem, particular this defect, these people, they transmigrate. So, and this defect is in this in a inverted comma, we can say atma hanana doshaha. So this defect of killing oneself, degenerating oneself, demoting oneself, downgrading oneself, and actually it happens. So once we do not know our true self, we degenerate, we downgrade, we demote ourselves, and then in this scheme of retribution and reincarnation, transmigration, we are told, the tradition tells us that we downgrade ourselves and demote ourselves, and we go down to the state of even stone. So even immobile. From a human being, we degenerate and demote ourselves to animal life, and then further to plant, and then to insentient beings. Okay. Up to this point, so we have, as earlier also I somehow summarized, the first verse is telling about, so you should cultivate the sense of renunciation and then sacrifice. The second one is telling us about activism. You should be active, you should be doing good deeds, and live the full life. And then the third one is censoring killing of oneself. And according to Shankara, this killing is figurative, not knowing oneself, not abiding by one's own true nature. So these three somehow are connected, should be connected, but probably there are other possibilities of interpretation. So anyway, Shankara's interpretation is typical. So he is saying that he follows his system or his non-dualistic scheme, and he says that there is no possibility of combining the path of knowledge, path of self-knowledge, and path of ritualism or path of activism. And according to him, first mantra is addressed to one type of people, and now he is relating the third mantra with the first mantra. So he is saying that the most important duty in your life is self-knowledge. You should know your true self. Otherwise, you will kill yourself, you will demote yourself. So be aware of that. And according to him, the second mantra, Dvitiya Kandika, the second mantra, is for those people who cannot subscribe to this higher knowledge, who cannot believe in this higher knowledge, self-knowledge, who cannot break this barrier of duality. For them, this activism, so if you can't transcend yourself from the mundane reality, then do your duties for your full life, be devoted to your duty and your role in the world, and that will lead you forward, not downward. So this much is Shankara's interpretation. And other acharyas also, like Tatra Shayanacharya, Ubatacharya, Mahidharacharya, अन्ये अपि तत्र वेदान्तिनः सन्ति, तत्र ये वेदान्तं बहुविधं वेदान्तम् अनुसरन्ति, यथा रामानुजः रामानुजीयः, तत्र अन्ये अपि जनाः सन्ति, ते तात्पर्येण शङ्करमेव अनुसरन्ति. There are other acharyas like Shayana, Ubata, Mahidhara. These acharyas are commenting on the Yajurveda, and Ishopanishad Upanishad is the last chapter of the Yajurveda, the White Yajurveda. They have their own commentary, but basically they follow Shankara. And even the other Vedanta teachers like Ramanuja has not composed directly any commentary on Ishopanishad Upanishad, but all those other Vedanta teachers, when it comes to the interpretation of these stanzas, these mantras, they basically follow, like they interpret Atmahan as Shankara is interpreting, that those who are unable to know the true nature of the self, they are the killer of the self, and so on. So the tradition is interpreting these in a figurative sense, and some people like Ramanuja, in the tradition of Ramanuja, or in the tradition of reconciliation of the two paths of self-knowledge and duty, activism, they say that these are complementary. So like doing your duties for your complete life, continuation of your role. So these are reconcilable according to some other teachers. Unlike Shankara. Shankara says these are two different paths and for two different type of people. But some other acharyas, they interpret that these two can be reconciled. Somehow you should cultivate the sense of uh, renunciation. No? So you should not be attached to the world. You should not be clinging to it. You should be devoted to the God. You should think that this world actually belongs to the God, belongs to the ultimate self, and so on. And you should do whatever the Shastras are telling you to do, and you should continue that way. And you should try to understand yourself, your relation with the ultimate self and your individual self, and so on. So those acharyas who are subscribing to non-dualism, non-dualistic self, then it is one self, so one reality, like Sankara. And even among non-dualistic acharyas, there are some acharyas who want to combine, reconcile these two paths. So for them there is no problem. No? So prathama mantra, dvitiyascha mantra, te ekatra ekasyaiva krite, ekasyaiva janasya krite, dvau api upadishtau iti tesam न तत्र ज्ञान कर्मणो समुच्चयः तत्र वर्तते त्याग भावनया संसारम न भुक्त्वा संसारे स्थित्वा तत्र आत्मा ज्ञातव्य आत्मा ज्ञातुं शक्यते इति समुच्चयवादिनां मतं वर्तते परन्तु शंकरः समुच्चयवादी नास्ति न तस्य विचारे तु प्रथम मंत्र पृथक वर्तते द्वितीय मंत्र पृथक वर्तते तत्र प्रथमे मंत्रे यह ज्ञान मार्गे वर्तते स अधिकारी वर्तते द्वितीये मंत्रे यह कर्म मार्गे अधिकारी वर्तते न तस्य कृते वर्तते तृतीयः मंत्रः तु यह आत्मानं ज्ञातुं न प्रयतते न जानाति तस्य निन्दायां वर्तते निन्दया न तत्र जनाः प्रेर्यन्ते आत्मघातिनः आत्म अनोजनः न तत्र निन्द्यन्ते इति कृत्वा जनाः प्रयतेयुः न जनाः तत्र आत्मज्ञाने तत्र न संलग्नः भवेयुः इति कृत्वा श्रुतिः आत्महनो जनः न तान् न असुर्यान् लोकान् गच्छन्ति इति वदति एवं प्रकारेण ते व्याख्यान्ति. Okay, so whichever way, either according to the reconciliatory model or the separation model of Shankara, so these mantras, they in a way promote the self-knowledge. They say that self-knowledge is the must. You have to cultivate the self-knowledge. You have to know the true nature of yourself. Otherwise, you will be demoting yourself. You will be killing yourself. So this is the interpretation, traditional interpretation, and also Vedantic interpretation. And here, the killing of the self is interpreted in figurative sense. So this is the summary of the commentary. But there are new articles or new interpretations. So at least there are two interpretations two articles there. Uh, Two articles by Thime and another one by I just Aravinda Sharma. So they somehow they try to interpret that here Atmahan is not figurative but literal. So according to them, uh, Aravinda Sharma, he tries to interpret. Actually, he also cites a number of texts and says that this is against suicide. Like you probably know that there were some traditions in which I think Shastric traditions are there which prescribe suicide in old age. So when your body is not supporting you, it's very difficult. You can somehow you go to certain designated places of pilgrimage, and you can depart from this body. So according to him, this is prohibition of that. And uh, it is possible, but the problem is how we put these verses, these mantras together. So is it one discourse, or is it some sort of dialogue? Uh, like Thime, another author, he thinks that the Ishopanishad Upanishad actually is in the form of dialogue. So he says that the first mantra is coming from one speaker, and then the second mantra is coming from another speaker. And that way. So there are different interpretations possible, and we cannot completely rule out that, even following the tradition. Tatra yatha Aravinda Sharma badati tatra puraneshu anyatrapi आत्महनो जनः निन्द्यन्ते तत्र आर्ते अपि काले यथा जनः रुग्णो भवति तदापि तेन आत्मा न हन्तव्यः इति एकेषां मतं वर्तते। अन्येषां मतं वर्तते यदा न देहः रुग्णः वर्तते तदा न देहपातः कर्तुं शक्यते इति तेषां मतं वर्तते। एवं कृत्वा यदि तादृशः तत्र कल्पः वर्तते चेत् अस्य उपनिषदस्य तात्पर्यं तस्य कल्पस्य निन्दायामपि भवितुं शक्नोति। सर्वथा तद् नास्ति, सर्वथा न वेदान्तेनैव रीत्या शाङ्करेणैव रीत्या व्याख्यातव्यम् अस्ति इति वक्तुं न शक्यते। तत् भवितुं शक्नोति, परन्तु काठिन्यं वर्तते। There are in Puranas and in some other places also, there are a few somehow denouncing of suicide, killing of the self. So here the basic thing is some people think that this is actually about the third mantra is about suicide, and then it is saying that it is not allowed, and it is actually criticizing those prescriptions in some dharma shastras which prescribe that when the body is not helping in very old age, if one is not really incapable of doing his duties, he can kill himself. So he can go to certain places of pilgrimage, designated places, like one can jump into the Ganges, so and so on. So these kind of prescriptions are there, and then this mantra, the third mantra, is negating that, denouncing that. So that interpretation is possible. And Aravinda Sharma, a scholar, he has written one article in Journal of American Oriental Studies, and he says that this mantra is actually censoring suicide, and then we can actually trace back in other texts relation of this mantra with such a censor. So that we cannot be sure. No? So our problem actually is, if Ishopanishad Upanishad is one discourse, so how we relate these different prescriptions or different upadeshas. So to create some sort of discourse, so Shankara interprets it in a figurative way. So that also, so is Shankara completely right, and other type of interpretations are not possible? That we can't say. No? So actually also, according to the tradition, these possibilities are there. So that I just wanted to tell. But Thime, another scholar, he takes that he is very close to Shankara from that point of view, but he says that here in the third mantra, killers of the self are here he interprets as killers of beings. No? So he says that this is a prescription of non-violence. So the first mantra itself is telling, according to him, that you should not kill like animals and other beings, and you should leave what is abandoned, what is ceded to you. You should not steal, you should not plunder. And there he interprets tyakta as bhiksha. So whatever is offered to you, whatever is given to you by the God or by others, so you live by that, you be satisfied with that, you cultivate in a way feeling of sacrifice, and then you cultivate the feeling of love towards the world, because this is inhabited, pervaded by the God. That way you will be sacrificing to the God, you will be loving the God, you will be in relation with the God. So protect the world, cultivate the world, and then uh, enjoy it. So you have to live in this world, survive, but sparingly. So you should not plunder, you should not kill. So you should not kill living beings, including plants. You should cultivate the vow of non-violence. So this is the interpretation according to Thime. But I just leave there. So like these possibilities are there. We can interpret Atmahan in Vedantic way. We can interpret Atmahan, killer of the self, killer of living beings, in Gandhi's way. Actually, Gandhiji, Mahatma Gandhi also once cited Ishopanishad Upanishad and interpreted these mantras in favor of his vow of non-violence. So there are different possibilities of interpretation of these three mantras. But what follows is much more Vedantic, I would say. It is talking about there maybe we can go with Shankara. So in the light of following mantras, Shankara interprets these three problematic mantras also in Vedantic way. Okay, maybe I stop there for a while, and then if you have questions or comments, maybe we can discuss, and then I can continue if we have time. Anybody has any comment?
The last interpretation the interpretation where you said it is condemning violence.
Yeah.
The word Atma is used differently in the sense it is used sometimes for body, sometimes for the mind, sometimes for one's own self. But is the word Atma in the Shastras ever used to refer to someone else?
शास्त्रेषु आत्मशब्दस्य तथा प्रयोगः न दृश्यते. आत्मशब्दस्य तत्र न जीवे न जीवति शरीरे प्रयोगः दृश्यते तत्र किं तैत्तिरीय उपनिषदि अपि ऋग्वेदे अपि तत्र न प्राणमयस्य मनोमयस्य न आत्मनः चर्चा वर्तते विज्ञानमयस्य आत्मनः चर्चा वर्तते तत्र तत्र आत्मशब्दस्य प्रयोगः शरीरे न सजीवे जीवति शरीरे तत्र दृश्यते परन्तु न अन्यस्मिन् न अपरे तथा प्रयोगः न दृश्यते परन्तु यथा न यथोक्तं मया यथा न प्रत्येकस्मिन् न जीवति शरीरे जीवति व्यक्तौ न प्रयोगः दृश्यते तदा न तत्र न जातौ एकवचनं यथा व्याकरणे उच्यते तथा न अत्र न स्व आत्म अनोजनः इति ये आत्मानं यत्र यत्र आत्मा वर्तते न तत्र 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 ये घातं कुर्वन्ति तान् ये घ्नन्ति ते सर्वे आत्मा अनोजना इति व्याख्यातुं शक्यते we don't have actual usage that way in the sense of others no? So that is not possible no? So but the use of atman the word atman in the Vedas in the Upanishads we find it in the sense of embodied self no? So where it's very difficult when you go to early texts to distinguish the body and the self so self is not without body in early discourses. Later, like, but not that late, already Yajnavalkya, he talks about the abstract sense of Atman and then he start to say that Atman is like the ether or like the space, it is everywhere, it is embodied and then when it is embodied there is appearance of cognition and so on but when we go back in the Vedas and in Upanishads we have the use of the word Atman in the sense of embodied self so and even not just physical embodied self but embodied subtle body like the self of cognition, the self of vitality, the self of bliss and so on, such as in Taittiriya Upanishad. And that way Atman, when it is used in plural, it can mean all embodied beings, no? So different embodied entities. So in that sense, we can, so it is not impossible to interpret Atmahan in the sense of those who kill beings, who kill living beings in whichever format, in whichever form. So these people, those who are violent, so that way we can interpret these verses in the sense of non-violence, promotion of non-violence, as Gandhi did and as Thieme also interpreted.
One last question.
Yeah.
Asura, Asuraha. What is the grammatical construct that makes that Asurya?
यत् प्रत्ययः न सो तत्र असुर शब्दात् यत् प्रत्ययः तस्मात् कारणात् तत्र न वृद्धिः नास्ति एवं कृत्वा तथा व्युत्पादयितुं शक्यते तत्र किमपि वर्तते न तत्र कुत्रचित् पुराणेषु अन्यत्र तत्र पाठभेदः दृश्यते तत्र असूर्या इति दीर्घेण पठ्यते तदा असूर्या इति यत्र सूर्यः न प्रकाशते तथा अपि वक्तुं शक्यते न परन्तु पाठे न वेदे काण्डशाखायामपि माध्यन्दिनशाखायामपि तत्र उकारः ह्रस्वः वर्तते एवं कृत्वा असुर शब्दात् व्युत्पाद्यते व्युत्पादनीयं वर्तते परन्तु अहं तत्र संभावनां पश्यामि न
अन्धेन तमसा वृताः इत्यस्मिन् भवता उक्तम् अमरकोशेऽपि अन्धं तमस् इति शब्दः अस्ति अस्य शब्दस्य विषये किञ्चित् व्याख्यानं
तत्र न अमरकोशे तु अकारान्तः शब्दः वर्तते तत्र न समस्ततया अत्र न व्यस्तं पदं वर्तते तथापि तात्पर्यं समानम् एव स्यात् इति मम विचारः तत्र अमरकोशे यत्र तमः गाढं भवति तत्र न अन्धशब्दः विशेषणतया तत्र स्थाप्यते यत्र क्षीणं वर्तते तम तत्र न अवतमस शब्दस्य प्रयोगः क्रियते इति तत्र वर्तते
एवं तत्रापि अन्धं तमस् इत्यत्र अलुक् समासो अस्ति काव्यशास्त्रदृष्ट्या इदं प्रायः आनन्दवर्धनाचार्यः तमः कथम् अन्धं भवितुमर्हति तमस्तु अन्धकारस्य कारणमेव तत् अन्धकारस्य हेतुः एव तमसः अन्धकारस्य पात्रत्वं नास्ति इत्यत्र प्रायः अत्यन्ततिरस्कृतध्वनेः उदाहरणेन स वाल्मीकेः पद्यम् उद्धृत्य वदति परन्तु वेदान्ते अत्र तमसः अन्धत्वं कथं सिद्ध्यति
अत्र तु यथा शङ्करेण व्याख्यातं वर्तते अन्धशब्दस्य तात्पर्यम् अविद्यायां वर्तते न सो अविद्यया न तमसा आच्छन्नं वर्तते आवृतं वर्तते एवं कृत्वा न तत्र असूर्यत्वं वर्तते इति शङ्करस्य व्याख्या वेदान्त व्याख्या तथा वर्तते न तत्र काव्यादिषु अपि न तमसा जनः अन्धायते एवं कृत्वा तथा न सो अंधी न तमः अंधी करोति तमः आन्ध्यं न उत्पादयति इति कृत्वा तमः तत्र अन्धतया विशिष्यते न
एवं तत्रापि आनन्दवर्धनः वाल्मीकेः उदाहरति यत्र निश्वासान्ध इवादर्शः इति वदति चन्द्रमा न प्रकाशते कथं how can the mirror be andha so it is a person who sees the mirror who has to experience the andhatva and so he says that the mirror is the karana of andhatva but through this atyanta tiraskrita vachya the mirror is also described as andha
तत्र दृष्टिबाधा यदा दृष्टिबाधा भवति तदा अन्धत्वं तत्र आयाति इति विचारयामि तत्र कालिदासे अपि न तत्र अन्धशब्दस्य प्रयोगस्तु वर्तते न वा परन्तु तत्र शुचि वेद्यै तमोवि न तत्र मेघदूते वर्तते in all religions people somehow distinguish between body and the self or soul so either in Abrahamic tradition or in Eastern traditions so there are probably majority of people majority of traditions which believe existence of the self or soul beyond body so maybe every tradition believes in that no so except maybe there are some materialistic people so, such as Charvaka who do not believe that way as it is alleged otherwise every tradition everyone believes in independent existence of the self or the soul but the specific and significant position of Asian traditions is that these souls or selves they transmigrate they are reborn so they experience the result or reward of their deeds so many Asian traditions they believe in reincarnation rebirth so that is another thing and then there are even more no? So advanced in a way, or distinguished traditions which believe in oneness of the self, oneness of the ultimate reality, and they think that ultimately the entire existence, the entire universe is one reality, one entity, and it you can say it devolves or it evolves, whichever way you say, and it appears in the form of multiverse, universe, then world, and then it evolves in the form of different forms of lives, you know, uh, even including what we say insentient form. Even that is manifestation of the ultimate reality. Otherwise, ultimately it is ultimate self or Brahman. So we can talk about the term Atman or self and how it develops in a historical way, but for the time being, maybe this much is enough. So there is distinction between living and non-living reality, and then there is distinction of body and self, and many people or majority of tradition, they rely on that, but there are some traditions which see that ultimately there is no distinction, no division, one way or the other way, and there are different models. Ultimately this is one and the same reality. And again, so there are some people believe in the God who is in charge and who manages these realities, and somehow he is the anchor of this existence. But there are other people who think that even the God is just one form of incarnation, or one form of manifestation of that ultimate reality. Okay, I stop there. Any other question? Or?
Sorry, I have a question.
Yeah, please.
So you've already explained a bit about the etymological explanation of tamas, the tamasa vritta,
Yeah.
but I wanted to ask more from a philosophical angle, because obviously one of the key conundrums in Advaita is where does this tamas or where does this maya come from?
Yeah.
But I see that Shankara here glosses it as just as adarshana atma ekena agnanena.
Yeah.
So I wanted to ask you whether in the Ishopanishad Bhashya, whether in any other place in the text he explains further his ideas about.
Yeah, definitely. That's why I said Shankara's interpretation of these three verses are actually in tandem, and then based all we can even say that on the basis of the other mantras coming later. Like in the following mantras, we are told about Vidya and Avidya. We are told about Sambhuti and Asambhuti. So they are like mundane knowledge, so like our knowledge, mundane wisdom, and then exalted transcendental wisdom. So these are discussed further down. So he is already anticipating them and interpreting the Atma Han. So in this particular sense, and on the tamas in a particular sense. न पश्चात् उपनिषदि तत्र विद्यायाः अविद्यायाः च उल्लेखः वर्तते। एवमेव सम्भूत्याः असम्भूत्याश्च उल्लेखः वर्तते। तत् सर्वं पूर्वमेव विचार्य मनसीकृत्य शङ्करः अत्र अन्धतमस् शब्दस्य अन्धस्य तमसः आत्महनः पदस्य च व्याख्यां कुरुते। सो पश्चाद उपनिषद विद्यया मृत्यु अविद्यया मृत्युं तीर्त्वा विद्यया मृतमश्नुते इति वदति। So one having lived the life here, having gone across this mundane existence by the help of mundane wisdom. So there avidya is, even the avidya is not completely nescience or completely ignorance. So we have to interpret even adarsanam tatra vastunah adarsanam. So yatha vastu vartate tasya adarsanam. It is not completely blind. So it is not absence of seeing, but seeing otherwise. So when you are unable to see the reality, you see it otherwise. So that way they interpret, and that basis is there, that is coming further down, and on the basis of that, Shankara is interpreting these lines too. But as I said, Khime or some other critics, they say that they see that this is not one discourse, and these three mantras have one message, and other mantras have other message, and there is also dialogue. So they're different format, so they different model they apply to interpret. In that case, we have to consider those interpretations. Otherwise, so if you read the whole Upanishad as one discourse, Shankara is coherent. Maybe it is a little bit forced in places, but yeah. So there is some ground. But if we can also follow the interpretation which denies violence, which promotes devotion to the God, and then dedication to the duty and the world with devotion to the God. So that also somehow maybe we can still reconcile and interpret. But being Shankara as a staunch non-dualist, he promotes his own interpretation. So that is there. But it is still it is founded on the text further. Yeah.
There is a verse about Atma Niseda. I'm reciting that.
Yogi karotyatma nishedam eva.
Yeah, Yogi karotyatma nishedam. Exactly that. And it seems this third sloka is just against that sloka. Can we relate that way?
Depends. Like atmanaha, so yaha atmanam ahankarataya janati yada yaha atmanam netra acharyataya divakara acharyataya evam यदि मनुते तस्य निषेधः कर्तव्यः तादृश आत्मा निषेधव्यः परंतु यह पारमार्थिक आत्मा वर्तते तस्य न कथंचिदपि न निषेधः कर्तुं शक्यते तत्र न बौद्ध मार्गे अपि तत्र कीदृश आत्मा निषिध्यते सो तत्र आत्मा निषिध्यते परंतु यह न खंडितः आत्मा वर्तते व्यक्तिभूतः आत्मा वर्तते तत्र तृष्णाश्रयः आत्मा वर्तते तस्य निषेधः क्रियते तत्रापि यथाभूतस्य निषेधः न क्रियते यदि सर्वम् एव एकं सर्वं यथावदस्ति सर्वम् एव आत्मा वर्तते चेत् तत्र आत्मशब्दस्य प्रयोगः अन्यथा एव वर्तते न तादृशः पारमार्थिक आत्मा तृष्णाश्रयः नास्ति तस्य निषेधः कर्तुं न शक्यते यदि आत्मा तथा चिन्त्यते चेत् परन्तु योगी करोत्यात्म निषेधमेव इति यदा उच्यते तदा तु तादृश तृष्णाश्रयः अविद्याश्रयः न तत्र द्वयाश्रितः न आत्मा वर्तते तस्य निषेधः क्रियते अत्र यदि न शंकराचार्य रीत्या उच्यते चेत् यः पारमार्थिकम् आत्मानं न निषेधति तस्य निन्दा क्रियते इति वक्तुं शक्यते न यदि यदि आत्मानं सर्वथा यः निषेद्धुं प्रयतते स आत्मघाती वर्तते तेन आत्मा अवटात् पात्यते तथा वर्तते एव न सो अनात्मनि आत्मतया ज्ञानं निषिध्यते न सो तत्तु सुष्ठु यदि पारमार्थिकः परमात्मा परमात्मा इति यत् ब्रह्म वर्तते यत् विश्वस्य सर्वस्य आत्मा वर्तते सर्वं तत्तु तस्य तु निषेधः कर्तुं न शक्यते इति वेदान्तरीत्या वक्तुं शक्यते परन्तु तत्र भवान् कथयितुं शक्नोति यदि तादृशः कोऽपि पदार्थः वर्तते स आत्मशब्देन व्यवहर्तुं शक्यते किम् इति वक्तुं शक्यते I am saying that the one reality, the ultimate reality, so and then that can be like in Buddhist system also, they talk about yathavat or yathabhuta, as it is, the reality as it is. So in that case, we should not even be biased and clinging to the word Atman. So even once you give a name, so you give a form. So let's say that you have discarded all forms, and then you are talking about ultimate reality, ultimate self. So this is even ultimate self, ultimate reality, even the word Purusha, Atma, Brahma, these are just vehicles of language. And if you stick to these words or these concepts, you will be misled. So if you stick to Atman too much, then you are sticking to an Atman. I would say.
Even in Bhagavad Gita, we have that, right? Atma Sanyama Yoga, where it refers mostly to the mind, not the self.
Okay, so maybe instead of going further, I can give you a few more comments from some other Vaishnava commentators. They interpret tatra e Vaishnava santi te isham Vasudevataya व्याख्यान्ति ते कथयन्ति ते तत्र न महानारायणोपनिषदि वर्तते तत्र यच्च किञ्चित् जगत् सर्वं दृश्यते श्रूयते वा अन्तर्बहिश्च तत् सर्वं व्याप्य नारायण स्थितः न तत्र ये नारायण भक्तिपरा सन्ति ते कथयन्ति अत्र यथा ईशावास्यमिदं सर्वं यत्किञ्च जगत्यां जगत् इति वर्तते तस्य तत्र महानारायणोपनिषदि तत्र समन्वयं कर्तुं शक्यते इति. So there it says that whatever is there in this world, whatever you hear, you see, all that inside, outside, all that is the dwelling. So is pervaded, presided by Narayana. So that way you have. And also I think in Gita you have Indriyani Mano Buddhi Sattvam Tejo Balam Dhriti Vasudevatmakanyahu Kshetra Kshetragya Evacha. So that way internally, even it's not only about Jagat in the sense outside. So from this point of view, this Vedantic interpretation, so we can say that inside, outside, everything is the God or is the ultimate reality, is Vasudeva, is Narayana. And then the Vaishnavas, they actually interpret, this is Nirvachana, it is not maybe grammatically easy, but Vasudeva in the sense of Vasatiti Vasudeva. So Sarvatra vai samastam cha vasatyatreti vaiyata tata sa Vasudeva. So they interpreted the Vasudeva, the root Vas is in some way, in Nirvachana way, is visible. So they say that Vasudeva is called Vasudeva because he dwells in everything, inside, outside. So that way they interpret. And then Ramanuja, followers of Ramanuja, they try to see the three padartha traya, bhokta, bhogya, and ishvara, prerayita. And in some way, like Shvetashvatara Upanishad also talks about one has to know bhokta, bhogya, and prerayita. So is the ishvara. So the same way also you can bring Sankhya. So some people try to see in these 2 verses or 3 verses the statement or presentation of Padarthatraya, Tattvatraya, the 3. So the physical world to be experienced, and the experiencer, and then the prerayita, the instigator or the ruler, so whichever way. So instigator maybe is neutral. So some people try to see that, and in this context, I found another interesting thing, that when we have this tena tyaktena bhunjita is there, so they say that why you need to cultivate the feeling or the idea of renunciation. They say that there are 7 faults, defects in this world. So they say the world is alpa, it is limited, it is not, it is finite. So that's why you cannot stick to, if you stick to anything mundane, you will be cheated, you will be at loss, because it is limited. So try for something unlimited. And the world is fixed, sthira. So they say alpatva is one defect, sthiratva is another defect. Tatra alpatvam vartate na jagati vishaye sthiratvam vartate dukkha moolatvam vartate. This is the root of suffering. So this is the cause of suffering. Dukkha moolatvam vartate, dukkha misratvam vartate. Yatrapi sukham vartate, tatrapi dukkam misritam vartate. Sarvatha sukham सुखैकान्तता अत्र नास्ति. सुख दुःखयो मिश्रणम अत्र वर्तते. सुखे अपि दुःखम वर्तते, दुखे अपि सुखम वर्तते. न अपरा दोष वर्तते, सुख दुःख मिश्रत्वम. एवमेव दुःखोदार्कत्वम. न सो उपादाने न अन्ते तत्र दुःखमेव वर्तते. तत्र पूर्वं सुखमिव दृश्यते, परन्तु पश्चात् अन्ते तु दुःखमेव अस्ति. एवमेव दुःखाभिमानमूलत्वं वर्तते विषये संसारे. न सो देहाभिमानमूलत्वं. न सो देहे एव आत्म अभिमानं जगता उत्पाद्यते. संसारे स्थित्वा विषय भोगेन देहे एव आत्मत्वं जायते, अभिमानं जायते. एवं कृत्वा अपि जगत् दुष्टं वर्तते. अपरा दोष तत्र वर्तते स्वाभाविक ब्रह्मानंद अनुभव विरोधः. सो आत्मना यः स्वाभाविकं स्वरूपं वर्तते ब्रह्मत्वं, तत्र आनन्दः वर्तते. सो तत्र स्वाभाविकं आनन्दं अनुभवितुं शक्यते यदि तत्र आत्मनि स्थीयते चेत्. परन्तु यदा जनः जगति स्थितो भवति तदा तस्य स्वाभाविकस्य आनन्दस्य अनुभवः तत्र न सम्भवति, तत्र विरोधः वर्तते. एवं कृत्वा अपि तत्र जगतः सप्तविधं दोषं दृष्ट्वा जनेन आत्मा ज्ञातव्यः इति व्याख्यान्ति. There are 7 types of defects. So as in the middle I was already explaining, the world is finite, the world is fixed, the world is there is suffering in the root, and the world or the things mundane, they are mixed with suffering, and even if there is happiness in one aspect, then but it concludes in suffering, and then also this world causes your understanding of the body as the self. So that is another defect, and then it contradicts, it stops your access to the blissful nature, blissful state of your self. So that's why the world is to be abandoned. So it should be relinquished. Okay, so one more small comment. So in case of tena tyaktena bhunjita, if you just read the verse, you can interpret like Shankara is interpreting. Shankara is saying this world is inhabited, pervaded by the God, by the ultimate reality. That's why you should cultivate, you should protect, and you should enjoy the world with tyaga. No? So with mentality of renunciation, mentality of sacrifice. So that way you are in the world, but you are still, you can transcend the world. So that was his interpretation. But syntactically, we can also say that tena can be isha. No? So tena tyaktena bhunjita means you can interpret that as much as given to you by the God, you should be satisfied with that much, and that way you don't injure the world, don't injure anyone in the world, and then whatever, don't be envious, don't cultivate any negative emotion, be happy, be satisfied. So with the God given your share in the world. So that can be another interpretation. And another interpretation can be tena jagata tyaktena sata. No? So the meaning will not be much different from the Shankara's interpretation, but syntactically, immediately following is jagat. So you can connect tena with jagata. So in that case, it can be like when the world being abandoned, no? Like in passive sense, being letting the world be there, no, abandoned by you, so that or relinquished, not that much cared by you, so that will support Shankara's interpretation. And another way, probably still, you can say that tena jagata tyaktena sata. So, you can say the much you are given by the world. No? So just one possible interpretation. That much, be satisfied with that much. What is seeded by you, by the world, by the other people. So that way, don't go and fight with them. So these different syntactical interpretations are possible. Okay, maybe if you have any further question, we can discuss further. So for the next time, then actually we are entering the next verse is much about, if we follow Shankara, is about the ultimate, that one reality, which is which transcends everything, which outsmarts, outstands everything in the world. So we will enter that. So the discourse will be slightly, the tone at least will be slightly different.
Sir, what are the 7 characteristics you just, can you please repeat just? Alpatvam, sthiratvam.
Alpatvam, sthiratvam, dukkhamulatvam, dukkhamishratvam, dukhodarkatvam, deha bhimana.
Dukhodarkatvam.
Dukhodarka, udarka.
Udarka.
Dukhodarkatvam, deha bhimana mulatvam. Then the 7th is Swabhavika Brahma Nanda Nubhava Viruddhatvam.
Viruddhatvam. Yes. Thank you, sir.
The third verse, there is somehow they are not fitting well. Is on the top Ishavasyam Idam Sarvam, which should include the Asurya Namate Loka as well. So really, even these people are not outside of Isha, right?
Yeah.
So they even those who Atmahanaha Janaha api, they are within Isha only.
You can say that it's in a way, anyway, the third verse is so rhetoric. No, so it is not that way literal. So it is a rhetoric, and it is to censor those people who are killing the self in whichever way, or who are either by way of ignorance or other ways. So it is a rhetoric. So, and still, as you said, they are under the ruling, under the pervasion of the God or the ultimate reality. There is no doubt. So from that point of view, everything in existence is under the God or under that ultimate reality, or is evolution or devolution of that reality. So they are there, but just when you are in the world, if you have right knowledge, or if you have right approach, right relation with the world, then you fare well in the world. So they are still in the world. So if you have, I think even in society you can say that. So if you have wrong approach, wrong knowledge, wrong relation, then you don't fare well. So you suffer. So what the third verse is saying, that it is now not telling the ultimate truth, but it is telling the relative truth, and it is saying that if you want to fare well, if you do not want to be that way enveloped by concealed by darkness, then you should cultivate right relation, right approach, right knowledge.
I agree. The only thing I was saying is that they are viruddha to each other. It's I see them as different gradations of the same being. Depending upon where you operate, as opposed to one versus the other.
Yeah.
They seem to be three levels of how you can exist, or how you can think, or how you can operate in the world.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, as Krishna says, Mama Vartman Ortante Manushyaha Partha Sarvashaha. Right? So.
Oh, okay. But if I got your point right, you are saying that the first verse is, let's say, in Shankaracharya's way, for Atmajanin.
Yes.
And the second version is for those who want to have Swarga or Moksha, but by way of karma, by way of duty.
Yes.
And then this third one is, so these both are all right, good people. So good approach. But the third one is about wrong approach, wrong relation. So that's why this is, you can go with A or B, but no C.
So Nishkama, Kamya, and Akarma.
No, परंतु द्वितीयः मन्त्रः काम्यपरात् नास्ति.
I agree. That is also Nishkama. Kama, but for Karma, but for Nishkama Karma. Both are Nishkama Karma. But if you do Kamya Karma,
यदि वयं शंकरम अनुसराम तर्हि प्रथम मंत्रः ये ज्ञानम एव अनुसरन्ति तेषां कृते वर्तते ज्ञान मार्ग. ये कर्म मार्गिणः सन्ति, कर्मणा एव ते उपरि गच्छन्ति. कति दूरं गच्छन्ति तद् शंकरः न जानाति, परन्तु ते अपि अग्रे एव गच्छन्ति, उपरि एव गच्छन्ति. तेषां कृते ये आत्मानं कर्तारं मन्वते, ये भोक्तारं मन्वते, तेषां कृते स मार्गः वर्तते. परन्तु यः मार्गः दुष्टैः जनैः तत्तु निषेधव्यः वर्तते.
It also somewhat matches with urdhvam gachanti sattvastaha, madhye tishtanti rajasaha, adho gachan jaganya guna pravrittaha, adho gachanti.
तथा अपि वक्तुं शक्यते. तथा तु तर्हि प्रथम मंत्र सात्विकानां कृते, द्वितीय मंत्र राजसानां कृते, परन्तु तामसस्य निषेधः तृतीये क्रियते.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, let me just briefly tell. Krishna ji is suggesting that we can see that the first mantra is for people following the path of sattva or path of knowledge. And the second mantra can be for those people who are somehow active, motivated by rajas, if we follow the Sankhya model, and those people who are on the path of duty, path of activism, that goes very well. And the third one is about the tamasa people, so who are guided by tamas, who are stagnated, who are that way enveloped by darkness, dark oriented, and these people are censored and then criticized. Yeah, this also is very nice approach, I would say. Any other comment, question?
Acharya,
Srihi?
द्वितीये मन्त्रे मम केचन प्रश्नाः सन्ति. प्रथमं तु कर्म न लिप्यते नरे इत्यनेन किं कुर्वतो कर्माणि कुर्वतोपि कर्मोपचयः तेषां कर्मणां च फलं नानुभूयते इति लक्षितम् आहोस्वित् कर्मोपचयः भवति.
सुष्ठु प्रश्नः वर्तते. तत्र यथा शङ्करः कथयति, स तु एवं आत्मज्ञानपूर्वकं कर्म क्रियते चेत् कर्म न लिप्यते, न तत्र तु कोऽपि बाधा नास्ति शङ्करमतानुसरणेन. परन्तु उपनिषदि मम मतं तु वर्तते, यदि यद् शास्त्रेण उपदिष्टं वर्तते तत्तत् क्रियते, शास्त्रानुसारं स्वीयं कर्म क्रियते, स्वधर्मः अनुश्रीयते चेत् तत्र यद्यत् क्रियते तस्य उपलेपः तत्र न भवति. सो जनः सर्वथा तेन मार्गेणापि स मुक्तिं मोक्षं गन्तुं शक्नोति इति विचारः स्यात्, श्रुते मतं स्यात् इति मे विचारः. Now the idea about this karma na lipyate nare, the Shankara's interpretation would be, if you have self-knowledge and then you do your duties, then you are not bothered by retribution, so by the reward. But maybe if we go to the Vedas and the Upanishads, there is a line which says that if you discharge your duties according to your status, according to your position in the world, then because by the virtue of doing your duty, being dedicated to your duty, if you do not do anything wrong, so you are just discharging your duty, then even then you are not bothered by right and wrong. You are not smeared by the reward of those actions, such as like you are doing Vedic sacrifice and you kill animal, but it is part of sacrifice, part of your duty, and you are not bothered. So this kind of interpretation in the Vedic tradition you can find here and there. So that would be Mimamsaka way. So I still think that it's possible that the second mantra is telling about that Vedic path, and that is independent, and yeah, even if you are still believing in karma, believing in your duty, you do not even have this idea of yourself as the ultimate self, even then you fare well, and you will transcend eventually.
But for that, Krishna, and again going back to Bhagavad Gita on that point, it's that
yeah. Sorry, I can't.
Brahmanyadaya karmani lipyatena papena padma patram ivambasa. So, but still that requires some Brahmanyadaya. That's why it cannot be in the absence of.
Yeah. No, okay, they are like in different period, they have different rhetoric. Now, like Gita is promoting bhakti and devotion to Brahman or Vasudeva as Brahman. So from that point of view, that is fine. But when you go back to early Vedic phase, for them, the duty. So they do not believe in kind of like ultimate ruling God, or who is in charge, so who is managing. So they actually believe in this mechanism of ritual. So they believed in ritual magic in a way. So the world, the universe, cosmos, whatever it is run by this mechanism of mutual support and mutual ritual. So that is the understanding of early Vedic philosophy or idea. So from that point of view, you are not doing whatever is needed. So you are just playing your role. So in that way, so yeah, it will be similar to Gita, but in Gita you have like Brahman or Vasudeva as the one higher, superior, and then devotion, and that is also easy. So you can devote that way to such personified or abstract reality that is the higher, and then yeah, Sri Krishna Arpanamastu. So you just dedicate all your reward or result, and then you do your duty. But in early phase, they were not presupposing such situation, but they were believing in the deed itself. So deed itself is their God. So that was the situation. Okay, I think we should stop here for today. So next week it will be the same time, 10 to 12, and yeah, maybe. I got some suggestion that 2 hours would be too long, so I'm making it a bit shorter. But yeah, please tell if which way you want. Anyway, so next week we will start maybe slightly different, but still the same discourse.
Thank you, Acharya.
Thank you very much. That was very good.
Dhanyawadaha.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.